Hey folks, Sierra Alpha Tango here, in some rather ominous lighting. I would like to apologize, my set lighting died, ran out of batteries, and I'm using an improvised light on my camera and my work light, so sorry if it looks a little horror movie-esque here. Anyway, on this episode we'll be talking about the ultimate in dirt cheap backpacking stoves, the Supercat Stove. Stick around. This is my favorite backpacking stove, an Optimus Nova stove. I love how clever it is, I love how compact it is, I love that it uses a variety of fuels. It's fantastic, except for one key issue. It weighs a ton. As I began dabbling into lighter equipment, the first stove I'd found that really kickstarted my journey into ultralight hiker trash was the Supercat Stove. For those of you unfamiliar, this is simply a tin of cat food that's been emptied out, of course. I feed it to my cats because I'm one of those people with cats. And then you just punch holes in it, fill it with denatured alcohol, light it up, and go. It's as easy as that. I do have a few steps that I follow to make one. First thing I like to do is tape down a piece of paper on my workstation. From there, I take my empty tin and I trace it out, and then I draw it roughly in quarters. And that gives me reference points for my first marks. From there, what I'll do is I'll take my lineman's pliers like these, and if you notice, there is a ridge that runs in here, and it's sharp. So we're going to fold that down so we minimize the risk of it damaging our precious digits. So you're just taking your pliers and pressing that sharp flange down. Ridge is defeated. Now, put it back on your circle and trace your rough quadrant marks down. I am using here a Statler Mars Technico drafting pencil, which there will be a forthcoming discussion on my channel. This is my favorite writing implement on the planet, and I would love to share it with you. Now that we have our quadrants on, what we'll do is we'll take hole punchers, and ordinarily people who make Supercat stoves make them using just regular office style hole punchers. I really recommend that. These are leather punches I got from a hardware store years ago for a different project, and I've carried them over for this, and they work, but it's a lot more labor intensive getting that punch, and it's not as neat of a punch. So as an FYI, the first thing I like to do with these is choose my diameter hole that I want to punch, and in this case I'm going for kind of my third smallest hole. With that selected, just kind of place it in really up close to the rim here, press down, and you may need to twist, you will likely need to twist the tin back and forth until it punches through, and make sure your little scrap falls down, because if it stays in there it's gonna really gum up the works. So one down, many more to go.
Oh, sometimes the people ask me what it's like riding the trains, and it's kind of boring a lot of times. Most of the time you just be like waiting and such. That's what this is about now. And some other things. Whoa, waiting for the train. Today, yesterday, just the same. Whoa, waiting for a train. Down at the end of Prospect Lane. Down to the ground, listening for that rumbling sound. Deliver me from this town. Today I'm gonna be homeward bound. Well,
So, Supercat stoves originated as a bit of a hobo culture. It was discovered that this could be done very cheaply and easily and make a cheap functional stove, and then it carried over into backpacking. I really like it. It's a kind of a slow stove, not very hot, but it's incredibly light, it's incredibly easy. There are some issues with it. There has some stability issues, wind. These things struggle with wind. You'll need a good quality windscreen with it. It's it's kind of a pain in the neck if you've been hiking all day and you're tired and hungry and you just want a meal and your meal is waylaid by a slow stove. But the weight savings are phenomenal. The fact that you can use denatured alcohol from any hardware store, as well as heat, that's spelt Hotel Echo Echo Tango, which is a fuel additive for cold weather diesels. It's an alcohol that keeps the diesel fuel from gelling in the lines and preventing the vehicle from running. The abundance of fuel, the cheapness, the lightness, it kind of, in its own way, balances everything out.
I got my ear down to the ground, listening for that rumbling sound, deliver me from this town. Today I'm gonna be homeward bound. Yep.
First row complete. Now we're going to move on to the second row, and I try to stagger these holes so they sit in between, so there's room for a good reservoir of fuel in the bottom there. I also just like these because they come together so easily. On one backpacking trip, I brought along a little tin of French pâté. I think it was a pork pâté, and I had it for lunch on the trail, and then I used a Leatherman to gouge holes in it and used it as a stove that night. And it was probably the least effective Supercat stove I've ever made because it was just so inefficiently built. But it was just such a cool, like, moral victory to go, yeah, I made that. That was my thing. I brought in lunch and I turned it into a stove. How cool is that?
Whoa, waiting for the train. Today, yesterday, just the same. Whoa, waiting for the train. Down at the end of Prospect Lane. Down at the end of Prospect Lane. Waiting for the train. Waiting for the train. Waiting for the train.
And this is a stove made by a complete idiot for a couple of cents. That's really cool. When I think about backpackers, I think about this level of ingenuity. I think about the creativeness that it takes to adapt hobo technology and make it into a hobby. And I'm really looking forward to putting this guy to use. So anyway, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Hope you have a great day.